Hey, going to be taking a look at a Paul Reed Smith tube amplifier here. Going to be looking it over and see why it's popping fuses. If it sounds like something you'd be interested to look at, hang around, because that's what we're going to do. I've never seen one, in person, never had one open before, so let's check it out together. All right, so I'm kind of cheating. I've already got it out of the amplifier. I've got the chassis pulled, and I've been looking at it real close. A friend of mine that I used to play in a band with called me the other day and said it blew. Well, he said it just quit working. He didn't know at the time that it had blown a fuse, because he pulled one fuse and it was good, and I showed him there was another fuse in where the power cord plugs in. I'll show you that in a second. I'm sure you're hip to that. But how's that? That way that light ain't in your eyes. So we've given it a look over, and I can't see any problems whatsoever. I'll give you a close-up, and I'll let a video run. All right, so he brought me this amp, and he said he had checked this fuse, and he couldn't tell if it was good or bad because it's a ceramic body fuse. I don't know if any of y'all are familiar with that type of fuse, but can't look at it and see if the filament's gone. So when he brought it over, of course, I laid it down, and that's the first thing I checked, and that fuse was actually good. It's a 1 amp fuse. But I showed him there was a fuse under here. We pulled that one, and it was bad. So I told him rather than just put a new fuse in it, I would take it apart. I would pull the chassis. I would make sure all the capacitors, I didn't see any capacitors that were swollen or leaky or any problems like that. And I've done it, and it looks absolutely fabulous. For any of you who have not seen the inside of a Paul Reed Smith, there it is. I'll show you the underside in a minute where the tubes are, and done really well. Printed circuit board amplifier, and very neat, not too crowded. I just think it's a pretty decent job. We're going to talk about what I think the problem might be. Right here, you'll see that this has selectable outputs. He has a 12-inch speaker in there, a 70-watt, I think it's a Celestion, and I measured the ohms on the speaker, and the speaker it's got about 12 ohms of resistance. Now, here's the deal. That would not be a problem if you used it in this 4 ohm main. It wouldn't be a problem if you used it in the 8 ohm main. but he had it plugged in the 16 ohm main. And that means that this load could have been 16 ohms coming into that 12 ohm speaker. That's probably not a good thing. Okay, so what I am going to recommend, I'm going to put the fuse back in this thing, and I think it's going to do just fine. What I'm going to recommend from now on is to use the 8 ohm main right here for this 12 ohm speaker. You know, you can use a speaker that's bigger ohms than the amp, but you really don't need to use speakers or speaker cab that is less ohms than what the amp is running at. So I did see on the back, and I'll turn it to where you can see maybe. It's done right. Where the transformer hooks into the outputs on those jacks, that's all done right. But I would feel much better about this if he would use the 8 ohm jack for his speaker, and I think it will work a lot better for him. And I don't think, provided everything works and it's not something else that I'm not seeing, I think he's going to be good to go. So what do you think? You think that could be the problems? You can leave a comment if you got any more ideas. I'm going to check these. There's some internal fuses right here. I'm going to check those. I'm sure they're going to be fine. But it's funny that he blew a 3 amp fuse on the cord, and none of the other fuses are blown. So you know, I told him he could have, where he was playing down there, he could have got some kind of power spike or something that caused the fuse to blow, for all I know. But I'm sure not seeing anything in here that looks like it would cause any problems. So I think we're going to put it back together and see how it does. I promised you I'd show you the bottom of this and the tubes and how it's all laid out, and really kind of old school looking. Of course, other than the printed circuit boards, the ones I'm used to working on are all hand wired, but really makes a lot of common sense. I'll show you it's got a tube bias on here. I think that's a pretty neat feature, and I'll show you that. Let me shut this off. I'll get this flipped over and show you what's going on. All right, so there we have the power tubes. I think they are, yeah, they're EL34s. And of course you got the preamp tubes. They're all, let me see, 12AX7, 12AX7, 12AX7. Rubies. Couldn't tell for a second. That's because I don't have my glasses on. Y'all know how that goes, right? Every time I make a video, I don't have my glasses on, so. But Ruby tubes are good tubes. Here's the outputs for the input and output for the reverb tank. And I like they got them color coded, so if you unplug them, you don't have to wonder which one goes on which. That's new to me. Let's see what this is. This looks like a JJ. Woo. ECC83, which is basically the same thing as a 12AX7. I'll have to stand up over the over the tube socket to get them lined back up and put them in. I don't want to bend any pins. So as far as what I was thinking on what might have been the cause of this happening, of course I could be wrong, but I want y'all to notice they have bias points for your meter and a bias pot to adjust the bias on these tubes. There's your common, there's the bias for this one, and the bias for this one. Pretty darn neat. And I don't know, maybe a lot of modern tube amps are this way, but I know Marshalls, you can bias from the back, but they don't have the, at least the ones the only one I've worked on doesn't work with a probe from a meter. So that's pretty cool. And I'm gonna power this up and see how it does before I get everything socked back up. Get something, put a speaker load on here and power it up and make sure all the tubes look good. The only other thing I found that is wrong with this amp, these tube covers, which are pretty, you know, they're the old spring-loaded deals, which helps keep your tube from rattling. But a couple of these O-rings were busted, so I think I got a pack of O-rings somewhere. We can replace those, keep them from rattling if it gets a little loud. But overall, good looking amp, I think. I don't have any experience with them. Maybe some of y'all do. You can comment down below. But almost the same setup as my Delta Blues. And I think definitely as far as quality goes, I think this has got my Delta Blues beat for sure. Pretty nice rig. I have a speaker cab plugged into our 8 ohm mains. I have it plugged in. I have the power currently off and the standby in the standby position, and I have it run into my 16 ohm. Let me see if I can back it out and maybe you can see the cap. My 16 ohm 16-inch Blue Marvel that I use as an extension cab for my, or 15-inch Blue Marvel that I use for my 15-inch Delta Blues tube amp. And we're going to power this thing up and give a look at all the tubes. Hopefully when I power it up, things don't start popping. I have replaced a 3 amp fuse here. Of course, this one never blew. So we're going to give it a shot and see what happens. I'm going to turn it on. I can see that the light is on. You see the light right here. So that's a good sign. I have no idea what the volume, tone, or anything is set up. I don't have a guitar plugged into it. We'll do that once I get it back in the cabinet. All right, we're going to go from on to standby. I see the power tubes are lit up. I see all the preamp tubes look like they're sparked up. Everything looks like it's working fine. Let's go to the on position. All right, we're getting some sound through my speaker cab. Uh-oh, now that was different. I haven't done anything, but did you hear that? Did you hear that? Ooh, see there? Oh, we got, look at there. We got a power tube red plating. Let's shut that booger off. Well, never mind, it just popped a fuse. All right, so we know what's going on. Yeah, I took it off standby. Things definitely changed, didn't they? All right, so we know. I'm gonna let Brad know, and I have no idea. We did blow a fuse, by the way. Woo! That booger's hot. This one's just barely warm. So we got a power tube that's very bad, and we'll get that fixed. We know what's wrong with the amp now for sure, don't we? All right, good deal.